Welcome back, Omnibus Cafe. My name's Kevin. Now, it's not often that major news outlets will cover your favorite superhero. But back in 2007, on the heels of Marvel's Civil War, that's absolutely what they did. Because Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting killed Steve Rogers, Captain America. I'm talking about the Omnibus Death of Captain America. This is the second in the 5 Omnibus set of Ed Brubaker, and I can't wait to show you some of the art and talk about the story. So grab a cup of coffee and let's check out this book. All right, so here we have the Death of Captain America. Like I said, this is essentially volume 2 of the Ed Brubaker run, although they didn't call it that. I really like this cover. Cap's bloodied hand with the handcuffs on over a copy of the Daily Bugle announcing the death. This is a rather thin omnibus. That doesn't bother me at all. I actually prefer my omnibuses to be around 500 to 700 pages, but this one is definitely on the thinner side, containing 18 issues, starting with issue 25, which is the Death of Captain America, and then the fallout thereof. But let's take a look at this book without the dust jacket, because we are not animals. All right, here we are. No dust jacket, and it's the same exact cover, just without some of the words. What a striking image this is, though. Really, really like this. But yeah, let's get into this. So this is in 2007, like I said, and this is, if you read Civil War, this is the very next thing you read. There's a lot of fallout from Civil War. I think this is the one that you have to read directly thereafter. In fact, if they ever did a Civil War omnibus, I think they should probably include Captain America number 25. Spider-Man's got some really significant fallout as well. I'll cover that in another review. But this one is Captain America. So we'll kind of go back in time and get a little dialogue and just refreshing everyone on the history of Captain America and where he is now. So this is like minutes, if not an hour after Captain America surrenders at the end of Civil War. And he does that because he still believes in the fight and he still believes in non-registration of superheroes, but he sees what the battle between the superheroes is doing to the community. And he decides to surrender himself. Registration becomes the law. The new Avengers, which was Team Cap, is now, on the run from the law. And they're about to bring Steve Rogers to the courthouse, where he is going to meet his well, I guess you should probably say a little bit of a spoiler warning, although the book is called The Death of Captain America, and this is nearly 20 years old. But this is where we will see Captain America meet his untimely death. He's about to be brought into this courthouse here for initial charges or hearings or however the hell the law works. I'm no Matt Murdock. But he notices something, and he notices something because he's Captain America. He's Steve Rogers. He notices that he's walking in. There's a sniper in a high window on this building, and he pushes this officer out of the way to try to save his life. And he's shot for the first time. It looks like through the neck, but he's actually kind of shot through like the collarbone almost, and we'll see that a little bit later. But then there are 3 more shots that ring out, and pandemonium ensues. You see Winter Soldier here. Bucky Barnes is kind of watching Sharon Carter, and these 2 characters will play a huge role in this going forward. And here we have the spread, the death of Captain America. And like I said in the intro, this was covered by major news outlets around the country and the world. Marvel kills Captain America. Killing characters is not something new to Marvel, but taking out Captain America, kind of a big deal. One of the original superheroes of the Marvel Universe. We get Falcon here, who's also going to play a huge role in this. And so where this issue goes here is Bucky is going after the killer. And Falcon sees that, and it looks like he might be running. And so he goes after, what's his freaking name? Winter Soldier, sorry. I only had 1 cup of coffee today. and, approaches him thinking it's him, realizes it's not, and they quickly go after who they think is the killer. And they think the killer's in this helicopter. And of course, it's Crossbones. What a piece of shit that guy is, right? So we get a lot of Crossbones in here. And like I said, this is a continuation from the first Omnibus from Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting, which had a lot of Red Skull, a lot of Crossbones, Red Skull's daughter, Sin, who we see right here. And they go after him, knock him out, and then he's in custody of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this minute. So Death of the Dream, this is a really beautiful issue. There's a lot of things happening in here, but I'm not going to give away too much about this story outside of the title of this, but Sharon feels a little bit guilty for the death of Captain America. And you can see here she's arguing with Tony Stark, who is now the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's important to know because his side won the Civil War. And part of that, he's given or tasked with leading S.H.I.E.L.D., which, historically is led by Nick Fury. And then in Nick Fury's absence, following the events of his Secret War, it's given over to, oh man, I'm not going to remember her name. I'll put it up on the little thing. But we get we end up in this bar here, and we just got a cast of Marvel's best mourning Captain America after the funeral. They don't show the funeral, but they kind of hint at Falcon. Sam Wilson had made this beautiful speech, and then we flip over to the bad guys. We'll call them. So Red Skull. So a little, and you should probably check out my review for Civil War, which I'll put up here on the little thing. And then I also reviewed Captain America by Ed Brubaker, what's essentially Volume 1. And what we learn in there is that Red Skull is partnering with this guy named Alexander Lukin. And he's a Russian who is the president or CEO of this Cronus Corporation. And they're an evil corporation. And something happens at the end of that first book where Red Skull and Alexander Lukin are now sharing a body and sharing a mind. So they kind of flip back and forth. But this character here is Dr. Faustus, and he will play a huge role in this story. Dr. Faustus is he's a psychiatrist, but he's also skilled in like vocal hypnosis. So he can hypnotize people using his voice. And that ability of his is why Red Skull needs him on the team and why he's a big part of this story. So we pivot back to Bucky, who, obviously distraught. He, in the last volume of this book, had just kind of been freed of that Russian assassin mode, similar to the events of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, the movie. In fact, the first book and this book there's a lot of stuff taken from these two books that were put into Civil War and Captain America Winter Soldier. So he wants to know where Red Skull is. That's they know that Red Skull was involved because Crossbones was involved. So him and Sharon Carter and Sam Wilson, the Falcon, are now on the hunt. Where is Red Skull? They want to find him. They want to arrest him. So like I said, really, I love this artwork. It's darker in tone, kind of, like I said, thicker black lines, a little scratchier. It's not super clean in the way that it was inked and colored, but I really love this for this story. I think Steve Epting's one of the best out there. So Tony Stark, again, director of S.H.I.E.L.D., gets this letter from this lawyer. The lawyer walks in, says, I've been trying to meet with you for a couple weeks now, but I was hired that in the event of Steve Rogers' death to give you this letter. And it kind of harkens back to the end of Civil War where Tony gets that letter. But we get more of Bucky on the hunt. We get more of Tony Stark, who's really struggling to lead S.H.I.E.L.D. in this post-Civil War environment. He's probably been on the job for a week or two at this point. Not a lot of time spent as Iron Man, a lot of it as running S.H.I.E.L.D. We get some Black Widow. So Black Widow enters the story, and she is on the pro-registration side. So she is still working for S.H.I.E.L.D. She's a legit hero at this moment. Bucky is not. Here we get a little bit of the back and forth. This is Alexander Lukin, that Russian CEO of Kronos Corporation, and this is inside of the head that they are sharing and kind of the internal battle that him and Red Skull have. But we get a little bit more of, just kind of this mystery, right? Where's Red Skull? What's going on? What is his end goal here? So Bucky Barnes finds him, confronts him, but is quickly taken out. And to the rescue is Sam Wilson and the Black Widow. Really cool image here of Bucky kind of, again, a lot of this was huge inspiration for the Captain America Winter Soldier and the Civil War movie, but I like to call that out as I've seen the movies a lot, I've read this a lot, and it's cool to connect the two. So things are going haywire. Tony Stark does end up deciding to put the suit on and get out there. But now we've got Sharon Carter's story. And like I said earlier, she's a little bit feeling a little guilty for what happened to Steve, thinks she might have had something to do with it. And then she will end up getting kidnapped or held captive by Red Skull by Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus, they also kidnap some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and using his vocal hypnosis, as we'll call it. They don't call it that in the book, but that's kind of his assumed ability. And that's how they are able to get in to S.H.I.E.L.D. And do some damage. Here's this Dr. Faustus character who I don't know if his vocal hypnosis thing is necessarily a power or just like a natural ability of his. But I think we'll learn more about that as this story goes on. So Sharon Carter is captured. She is with Red Skull and Alexander Lukin, and we see, I think we just saw him, Arnim Zola shows up, Red Skull's lead scientist. I saw him back here somewhere. We'll see him somewhere else. But we get this really cool battle between Iron Man and Bucky. So Bucky thinks that Iron Man, what's his stupid name? Tony Stark, forgive me, is at least partially responsible for the death of Captain America. And he thinks he's hiding something. So he approaches Iron Man. They duke it out, have a pretty sweet fight. But in the letter that Steve wrote to Stark, he says something to the effect of, do me this one favor since we were old friends. Look out for Bucky. He's back in the real world. Don't let him get lost again. Don't let him get put under the influence of villains again. Look out for him. But then he also says, Captain America needs to live on. I'm not the only Captain America. America needs Captain America. So let the dream live on. So Tony's idea is to put the suit and S.H.I.E.L.D. on Bucky. And this is really cool because Bucky is obviously really honored to get this role, but also slightly conflicted because he knows he is not Steve Rogers. And you can see here, Captain America carrying a gun. So as we go on, we start to learn a little bit more of the plot or the desire of Red Skull and what he wants to do. And they get this senator, and using Dr. Faustus's hypnosis and psychiatry experts, they flip him onto their side. And this guy decides he's going to run as a third wing, wink, wink, Third Reich, as a third-party candidate. And the goal is to install him as a president to the United States who is loyal to the Red Skull. And they get very close. There's a lot of attention, a lot of like for this senator and some of the things that he says because of the state of the world at this time. So, like I said, Sharon Carter is captured. Here's Arnim Zola, really cool. He's the scientist that works for Red Skull. And they are holding on to her for reasons. No, I want to be spoiler light here. So as we go through this, the four main characters of this, eventually team up. Sharon Carter, Black Widow, Bucky, who is now our new Captain America, and Sam Wilson. they form a team, I guess minus Sharon Carter. Their goal at this point is to rescue Sharon and stop Red Skull. So we get some cool dialogue between Falcon and Tony Stark. Falcon was on the pro-registration side. He's not necessarily happy about it, and a lot of heroes weren't at the time, but that's the side he chose. And he's a little upset that Tony gave the shield and the suit to Bucky. I guess also a lot of influence to the Winter Soldier movie, the Civil War movie, but a lot of influence came directly from this book into the the Falcon Winter Soldier show, which I absolutely loved. So they've the other thing that the Red Skull wants to do, in addition to installing his own president, is installing his own Captain America. So I forget this gentleman's name. I'll throw it up there, but he's related to Jack Monroe or something like that. And they've kind of made him look like Steve Rogers. And he becomes kind of their main weapon. So they finally find out where Red Skull, Arnim Zola, Lucan, and Faustus are hiding and keeping Sharon Carter. And the end of this story is them approaching them and trying to make the save. We get this really cool dialogue between Sin and Sharon Carter. Sin's an absolute bitch. She hates Sharon Carter and wants to kill her. That obviously doesn't happen, but they get a really cool battle later in this. But here we get Captain America versus Captain America, and that none of them are Steve Rogers. This is the imposter, and this is Bucky. And as they duke it out, they end up kind of foiling the plot of Red Skull and Zola. And one of the things Red Skull wants to do is, like I said earlier, he's sharing this body and mind with Alexander Lucan. Red Skull really wants to be done with that. He wants to have his own body. So that was a big thing that they kind of foiled near the end of this, but this story will continue in the next omnibus. In the next omnibus, again, spoiler alert, it is called The Return. I'm turning my head here. It is called, no, not The Return, Captain America Lives. And I'll do a review of that. Some cool extras. We get some alternate variant covers. Alex Ross doing some beautiful stuff here. Like I showed you at the beginning, here's some of the national media covering the fact that Marvel killed Captain America. And then we get some scripts and some additional artwork. But this is a really cool book. Like I said, it's on the shorter side for an omnibus. That doesn't bother me. They realistically could have put Death and Reborn together and made a regular-sized omnibus, but it doesn't bother me at all. But that's Captain America, the death of Captain America. So I happen to be a big Captain America fan. I don't know if you can see, but I got a new Captain America shirt. And I also happen to be a huge Ed Brubaker fan. So I absolutely love this series. Book one of this, which you can see back here, is one of my favorite omnibuses. But I think Death of Cap might be the best part of Brubaker's run. And that's weird because as a big Captain America fan, my favorite book is one where Captain America dies in the first issue and isn't there. But I thought they handled the fallout of Civil War really well. I thought they did the relationships that Steve Rogers had with Sharon Carter, Black Widow, all the superheroes of the Marvel Universe, and how did they react to the death of Captain America? More specifically, how did Tony Stark react, right? So Tony Stark versus Captain America, that was what Civil War was all about. And, on the heels of this, Tony Stark, Iron Man, becomes the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And like I showed you in the book, he's not having a great first couple weeks at this. And one of his best friends is dead because of the Civil War and kind of what happened there. So I thought Brubaker did a really good job at exploring some relationships and exploring what his inner circle would do in the event of his death. I thought he did a really good job at continuing to build on that story of the Red Skull working with Alexander Lucan. Arnim Zola shows up. Dr. Faustus. I thought the continuation of that story and the build of that was really cool. Steve Epting's art, I think, is phenomenal. I love Steve Epting's art, especially on this kind of darker Captain America run that Ed Brubaker did. Some thicker, scratchier line work, really dark on the colors. I really enjoyed the art. But let me know down in the comments what you thought of Death of Captain America. And we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.
If you're looking for great deals on collected edition comics or manga, we recommend shopping at panelboundcomics.com. They offer free shipping on orders over $30, plus bundled discounts to help you save even more. And if you're shopping from Europe or the UK, comicsbugle.com offers free EU shipping and a rewards program for regular buyers. Don't forget to use our discount codes at checkout.